Hello and welcome to my home. Everyone is concerned about a preparation pantry to get us through the winter in a time when illness may spike and people are grabbing things out of the stores again. So what's that got to do with cleaning out my refrigerator? Well, I'm about to tell you. The first step to getting your pantry ready for a time where we might hit scarcity again is keeping track of the food that you already have on hand and keeping waste at a minimum. In a moment, you're going to see some of my failure here as I throw away some of the food that we had in our refrigerator and pantry. So while it's important to learn the tips and skills to preserving the food that you have on hand and using it up before it spoils, I do think it's important to remember that becoming a perfectionist and beating yourself up over every failure is never going to be effective, and you're just going to get discouraged and quit. The first tip I have for you is to keep your refrigerator, your pantry, and anywhere else you're storing food clutter-free. This way you always know exactly what you have and you're not wasting money purchasing things that are already in the home. There are 8 people living in this house, and this is a pretty small refrigerator for food for 8 people. So it's super important for me to be going through my refrigerator every couple of days and keeping stock of what we have. Also, I have multiple people who are saving leftovers after a meal, and they save them sometimes in very creative ways. So I have to make sure that things are stored in such a way that they're not going to spoil. I'm also checking to see if there are some things that could be put in the freezer, because I just threw out chicken. If that had been put in the freezer, it would not have spoiled. Next, before grocery shopping, if I can take an inventory of everything that I have in all of my food storage areas, I can create meal plans for those items. Then when I'm going to the store, I'm going to be buying ingredients that go with the items I already have on hand, and I won't have to buy as much. Another great idea is to prevent leftovers in the first place. If you are like me and you have people in your home that don't necessarily love to eat leftovers, it can be very important to prevent cooking too much food. Having a large family, I actually tend to err on the side of making too much food. And this is because I have teenagers, and some days they're wanting to eat a ton, and some days they don't want to eat very much at all. Growing up, my mother always put things like a jar of applesauce, a jar of pickles, and a loaf of bread on the table with our meals. And I used to wonder why she did that, but now I understand. You can make less food and then add fillers such as this, so that if people are still hungry, they can eat from these items, and then those can easily be stored, and they have a pretty long shelf life. Of course, bread is the only thing in that mix that doesn't last long, but that is used for other things like sandwiches. You could also put things such as raw veggies, raw fruit, black or green olives on the table, and that way you could be making less, have less leftovers, and if people are still hungry, they can be munching on those things as well during the meal. Along with meal planning for what you already have on hand, when you have leftovers, it would be great if you made an immediate plan on how those are going to be repurposed and used. When you're doing your meal plan each week, plan to eat the things that have a short shelf life first and the things with a longer shelf life last. For example, cabbage and carrots last a lot longer than corn on the cob. So if I were to buy all 3 of those items, we would eat the corn on the cob right away and save those vegetables with a longer shelf life for later. Of course, if you eat canned or frozen vegetables, that can be a great help as well. As you see vegetables that go on sale, for example, during Thanksgiving and the holidays, you can see a lot of squash and those types of things go on sale. You could be buying those and you could be preserving them yourself. I'm finishing up with my refrigerator now, and I'm going to be moving over to my pantry, and you might notice that bottom shelf is a lot emptier than when I started. So here's what we have now, and let's move on to the pantry. My pantry gets very messy very quickly. I even have labels on those green plastic containers that I got at the dollar store, but I have to admit that most of my family completely ignores all those labels. But they still help me because when I go to reorganize like I'm doing right now, it only takes me a matter of minutes to put things back where they belong. When I don't take time for this step, we do tend to waste our money buying things that we already had on hand. That would be fine if it was a canned good, but there's many times when it's a type of flour or a raw nut that is going to spoil if it isn't eaten, and I want things to be eaten in order of expiration dates so that I'm not wasting that money on food. And speaking of things like canned goods, if you don't know how to can vegetables, and I have to admit, I don't know how to can vegetables, you could easily blanch and freeze vegetables that are on sale that your family commonly eats. All you have to do is get some water boiling and then put your clean, cut veggies into that boiling water for a matter of minutes, like 5 minutes. Then you want to go ahead, drain it, and put those veggies in an ice bath. This will stop the cooking process. Then you can pat them dry and put them on a cookie sheet and flash freeze them. Once they've been frozen, then you could put them in a Gladlock bag and you could label them with the date so that you can be using those vegetables in order of the time that they were frozen. Another mistake that I have made is I have purchased food because it was on sale. I was very zealous that we were going to use these food items, but they weren't things that we commonly eat, and they weren't things that we really enjoyed. So I bought them because they were on sale. I believed that we would use them, and then I got them home. No one wanted to eat them, and they went to waste. I would have been way better off sticking to the foods that I know we're going to eat, even if they cost me a little bit more. In the long run, I would have saved money. If you have any tips on how to keep from wasting food as well as how to save on food, I hope you let us know in the comment section below. And so I encourage everyone to be down there in that comment section reading and gaining tips from each other. And if you have any questions, I hope that you'll put those in the comment section below. Even if I don't know the answer, I would be more than happy to do the research for you. Now that I am finishing up getting my pantry organized so that I can make a good meal plan, I'd like to talk about how you can start a prepper pantry. I know there's a lot of videos on this right now, but I think I have some unique perspectives that you might not have heard yet. I think many of us have never had a prepper pantry before. We've never tried to stock up for several months at a time. I know that's where I am. And so we don't exactly have that kind of money to immediately buy that kind of food and have that kind of a grocery bill. And then there's other things that we'd have to buy: paper products, cleaning, medicine, hygiene. So let's just relax and calm down, because I know what happens to me is I start to think of all these things I actually never thought about before, and it brings a lot of anxiety. So the first thing we need to do is just decide we're going to take this one step at a time. The first thing that you want to do is to figure out how much money you have available to spend at each pay period toward your pantry. If you're like most of us, you're not going to go out and buy 3 months worth of everything the next time you get paid. You're going to have to space this out and do the best you can. Now, I want you to figure out what exactly you would even buy to stock up on. And one easy way is to go around the house with your phone, take a picture of your food pantry, a picture of your refrigerator, a picture where all of your cleaners are, a picture of your hygiene products, medicines, anywhere that you're keeping things in the home that you buy. I want you to take a picture of it. And that way you can sit down at a desk in a quiet spot and you can just scroll through those pictures and start making a list of your staples, those things that would be really hard to live without. Once you've done that, I want you to think back to the month of March in 2020. What were those things you really had a hard time finding? I am planning to start there. For example, beans, rice, toilet paper, paper towels, pasta. Those 5 things were very hard for me to find, and that's where I decided to start. Now that you have your list, think about how much you use in a month or even in a week, and then decide what's your goal? How long are you trying to be stocked up for? I would love to be stocked up for 6 months because I know that financially 6 months from now is going to look a lot better than 3 months from now because Christmas is coming. That's just reality. So now that I know how long I would like to stock up for, I can start thinking about how much I think we would use in that week or in that month, and then I can multiply and figure out how much we would use in 6 months. I'm going to start with the things that I know are very hard to find. Once I have those things that I know are hard to find, I'm going to start stocking up on things that I can find on sale or have coupons for, or just plain find at a good price. So just to kind of back up a little bit, if I know we generally use 2 boxes of pasta in a week, then I know that over a month we use 8 boxes, and over 6 months we would use 48 boxes. So I can kind of figure out there what my goal is. Now that I've figured out what I'm going to buy, and in general kind of an order of what's coming first and maybe what's coming second, before I actually go buy one thing, I think it's important to start thinking about where is this stuff going to go when it comes home. And as far as where is it going to go, if you have a very large pantry, consider this. For me, if it's my house, and let's say I'm buying 6 large jars of peanut butter, I'm not going to keep extra peanut butter in my regular pantry because here's what's going to happen. Someone's going to open the door. They're not going to see the peanut butter that was already opened, and they're going to open a new one. So think about those things that you're not going to keep in the general pantry that you use every day, because you're going to have people opening several packages of the same product and things are going to go to waste. So you got to think about where else can you be storing these things rather than your general pantry. I could keep extra cans in my pantry, extra boxes of pasta, but not something like peanut butter that's going to go bad if it stays open for too long. And I don't want the mess of having 3 peanut butters open. I want to have one at a time. So let's talk about what are some options where you could keep these things. As a word of caution, you want to be careful of keeping things in a place that's going to get overheated, like an attic. I'm old enough to remember Y2K, and I remember people storing canned goods in their attics, and because of the heat of where they live, you had cans that were exploding open or food that was spoiling because the temperatures weren't right. Of course, you wouldn't want to store something liquid where it could freeze. So just to give you a few ideas, I bought one of those utility shelves at Home Depot, and I'm starting there. I have it at the foot of my stairs in my basement. Some other areas, if you don't have a basement and the garage isn't an option because of temperature control, think about a drawer under your bed. Think about a closet shelf that might be empty or that you could clear out. Think about an office, maybe a corner of your office where you could stack Rubbermaids, maybe from floor to ceiling. So think of places that aren't too obvious, that you're not going to be tripping over all the time, where you could be keeping some extra things. And then obviously you don't want to be trying to store more things than you have room for, because in the long run that's probably not going to work for you. As you're considering storage options and where you're going to put these things, remember, keep a list of what you put where, because it can be very easy and overwhelming to forget that you put 15 cans of spaghetti sauce under the bed. Remember, this does not have to be a Pinterest-worthy picture. This just needs to be provisions for your family to get through a possible difficult time. Do you have a freezer? Do you have a deep freeze where you could be keeping meats? You need to make those decisions before you buy a lot of frozen things. Obviously, you're going to have room for them. Also, think about the fact, like for me, I live in Maine, we have harsh winters, and I don't have a generator. So I do have to be mindful of the fact that we are going to lose power. Now, there's many websites where it will show you how to either make an ice box, or you can turn your own refrigerator or or your own freezer rather, into an ice box with blocks of ice. Blocks of ice are going to do a better job than individual ice cubes because the less surface area, the longer things stay frozen. So if I were to lose power for a few days, I'd be okay. I do have some ice blocks in my freezer, but if this was going to last a long time, then I would be in big trouble. One time I decided to stock my freezer because we were going on a trip and I didn't want to have to go grocery shopping when I got home. So I stocked my freezer with a couple weeks worth of meat. Well, unfortunately, while I was gone, my freezer broke. And when I came home to the worst mess, it was really nasty. It was disgusting. So you have to make sure that you have places to put these things before buying them. And so if you don't have the ability to keep extra things in the freezer, then perhaps focus on all of the non-perishables, the cleaners, and the hygiene products. I wanted to prepare this short video for you so you could just get started thinking about how you might start a preparedness pantry. I would love it if you'd let me know in the comment section below. Are you planning to stock up? And if so, for how long would you like to be stocked? Also, if you have any questions at all, I hope you'll leave them in the comment section below. I'm in the process just like you, and as I work toward getting my own home ready, maybe I could help you as well. One more thing before I go. I know that many people are struggling with remote learning and their kids are really having a struggle. And so I have created some homeschool videos, and I'd like to put one up in the right-hand corner of this video that you might like to start with that would help you just to think about what curriculums could work for your kids if you decide to start homeschooling. Click on that video now and I'll see you there. I hope this video helped you, and I hope as always you remember that God loves you and I love you, and I can't wait to see you next time.